Hey guys, what's up? Power Up Boxing here, and today I'm gonna tell you my top 5 pound for pound boxers right now. The year 2014 just ended a week ago. It's 2015, and I'm gonna give you my up to date pound for pound list, top 5 pound for pound list. If I went to top 10, it would be harder to make, but top 5, it's easier to make, I would say. But first, I was actually going to make my updated pound for pound list earlier than this, actually, but I thought to myself, wait a minute, I got to wait for 2014 to end because I had to wait, especially I had to wait for the Timothy Bradley versus Diego Chavez fight. I had to wait to see the outcome of that fight because Timothy Bradley is in my top 5 pound for pound, and if he lost that fight, that might have changed things. But the fight ended in a draw. He clearly won in my opinion, so it didn't change his position on my list. But like I said, I had to see that fight first before I made the list. And yeah, so this is my up-to-date list. And I'll start with number 5. Number 5, Sergey Crusher Kovalev in the light heavyweight division. He's the WBO, WBA, and IBF light heavyweight champion, and he won 2 of those titles recently from Bernard Hopkins, the IBF and WBA titles, and one of the best performances of the year. In my opinion, Sergey Kovalev is the fight of the year for me anyway. Just the way he dismantled Bernard Hopkins. Like, people thought if he was going to win, he was going to just run him over. And a lot of people thought Hopkins was going to outbox him, and Kovalev's never faced anyone with the experience and the boxing skills of Bernard Hopkins. And Kovalev just knows how to walk forward and doesn't know anything else. And if he can't knock out the guy, he's not going to win. And he wasn't past, I think he was never been past the 8th round before, and people were going to say, oh, Hopkins going to take him to deep water. Well, we seen what happened. Kovalev just didn't knock out Hopkins. That would have been good too, the first person to knock out Hopkins, but I thought he was even more impressive the way he beat Hopkins. He didn't just beat him up, knock him down for 12 rounds. He did it skillfully. He outboxed Hopkins. He outboxed the boxer. He was the better boxer. And a lot of people were saying, obviously, if he's going to box Hopkins, no way, right? He has to knock him out. But he proved everyone wrong. In that fight, Sergey Kovalev proved a lot to me and to a lot of the people out there who said he was just a knockout artist, because he's not. He's a well-rounded overall fighter, and he just the way he just the patience he showed, the tactics, just the skill he showed in the Bernard Hopkins fight, sticking to the game plan, being patient, and just no one has ever shut down Hopkins the way Sergey Kovalev has. And like, I just gotta say, like I said, that's what impressed me even more about Sergey Kovalev's performance. Not that we're seeing him knock out people, and he did rock Hopkins, he did drop him, but that's not what impressed me. It's impressed me the way he outboxed Hopkins. That's what I'm trying to say, and the way he did it. He won every round, and he beat up Hopkins, and Hopkins was definitely top 3 in the light heavyweights at that time. He still is top 3 in my opinion. I think Kovalev, Stevenson, and Hopkins are the top 3 in the light heavyweight division. And you could throw in Jean Pascal too. But Kovalev just beat a top 3 light heavyweight with 2 titles. And no one has ever shut down Hopkins like that. And so I got to put Sergey Kovalev number 5. Oh yeah, and the fact that he's just been destroying guys. I know not well-known guys, but still, he's destroying undefeated young, hungry fighters like Blake Caparello, Cedric Agnew, Ashmel Salah, Nathan Cleverly, Cornelius White, Gabriel Campello, Lennell Thompson. All these guys got good records, what I just named there, and a couple of them were undefeated. 3 of them were undefeated, what I just named, and a lot of them only had 1 loss, what I just named. So Kovalev's been destroying guys. He had a great 2014, beat 2 undefeated fighters, and destroyed them, and beat one of the greatest fighters who ever lived, Bernard Hopkins. So you gotta, and he has 3 titles now. So he's definitely there, top 5 pound for pound. He's number 5 in my opinion. Number 4 is Timothy Bradley. Timothy Bradley, Desert Storm Bradley. He is he's number 4 because no, actually he's not. Sorry, I made a mistake. Number 4 is Juan Manuel Marquez. Sorry, I made a mistake. Juan Manuel Marquez is number 4 in my opinion because he knocked out Manny Pacquiao in 2012. He pretty much dethroned Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao was considered by a lot of people number 1 pound for pound on a lot of people's lists at that point. Still, and he knocked out Pacquiao. So he beat the number 1 guy, or you could argue Pacquiao was number 2 at that time, but a lot of people had Pacquiao number 1 at that time, like myself, and he beat him. So he beat the number 1 guy, and then he fought Timothy Bradley. He lost to Timothy Bradley, and then he destroyed Mike Alvarado. He pretty much beat up Mike Alvarado really bad and won the vacant WBO international title. But so even though he lost to Bradley, he's number 4 in my opinion because I just listed his last 3 fights: Manny Pacquiao, Timothy Bradley, and Mike Alvarado. Mike Alvarado is a very good fighter. He's only beaten by Brandon Rios, and then he avenged that. So really, Mike Alvarado was kind of undefeated if you look at it that way because he avenged that loss. And Juan Manuel Marquez just proved that he's still one of the best and beat up Mike Alvarado for 12 rounds and dropped him. So he did get dropped in that fight too, but we all know if you catch Marquez, his balance kind of gets off sometimes. It wasn't hurt really, but it was a very good punch by Mike Alvarado. But Mike Alvarado pretty much got beat up in that fight and lost unanimous decision. So why do I put him here? Number 4 because he beat Manny Pacquiao when Manny Pacquiao was number 1, and the way he did it, he knocked him out, and the win over Mike Alvarado is a good win too. So the only loss that he would have been even better on my list if he beat Timothy Bradley, but he lost to Timothy Bradley. So that's why he's number 4, and that is why number 3 is Timothy Desert Storm Bradley. And why is Timothy Bradley number 3? Well, he didn't really beat Manny Pacquiao back in 2012. We can't really count that one. But he beat a beast, Ruslan Provodnikov. Ruslan Provodnikov only lost to Mauricio Herrera at that time. Mauricio Herrera just beat Danny Garcia and Jose Benavidez. In my opinion, he clearly beat them too. He should be the number 140 pounder out there right now, Mauricio Herrera. And that's the only loss Ruslan Provodnikov had. Ruslan, he's just simply a beast. He's feared by a lot of people, especially at that time. He's probably more feared. He's still feared now, but probably even more feared when we seen what he did, what he showed in the Timothy Bradley fight. But regardless, he's one of the most feared people in boxing right now, Ruslan Provodnikov, high-risk fighter. And Timothy Bradley, it was a close fight. You could argue that it could have been Ruslan Provodnikov's win. You could argue that it could have been a draw. It was a split decision. A unanimous decision for Ruslan for Timothy Bradley. But the judges had it 114, 113, 114, 113, 115, 112. So the scorecards were close, but Timothy Bradley really in the middle rounds, in the late rounds, he really came back and started beating up Ruslan with vicious combinations and showing his heart in that fight. And we all know he came into that fight depressed and he didn't really care. He just wanted to go in there, and he didn't stick to a game plan. He was just fighting because he was taking out his frustrations, you could say, and his depression from that Pacquiao victory that he shouldn't have had, and he was getting like hate mail from fans and stuff and death threats. So it was one of the lowest points in his life, he said, and that's why he fought that way. But then again, Ruslan forces that fight on you too. But anyway, Bradley showed his heart. He showed a good chin, and he came out with the victory because he boxed very well in the middle to late rounds, and he showed that he can brawl too with Ruslan Provodnikov and survive. So that's a very good win. Then he faces Juan Manuel Marquez. Juan Manuel Marquez just came off his biggest win in his whole career, knocking out Manny Pacquiao when Manny Pacquiao was number one. And no one has knocked out Manny Pacquiao since his early days in the Philippines when he was very young and malnourished and didn't have Freddie Roach, unexperienced, very wild fired, not tamed at all. Manny Pacquiao hasn't been knocked out, let alone he hasn't lost since Eric Morales, like 8 years ago. Because I don't count the Timothy Bradley loss. That's an official loss for Pacquiao, but really, we all know Manny Pacquiao hasn't lost since the Eric Morales fight, and Juan Manuel Marquez knocked him out. So that is, Timothy Bradley was facing a very dangerous Juan Manuel Marquez coming off the biggest win of his career. Everyone thought, a lot of people anyway, thought Marquez was looking very super strong and possibly using. A lot of people were speculating because he was looking like a beast. Physically, looking at him, he looked like a beast, and performance-wise, he was looking like a beast too, and he showed it still in the Mike Alvarado fight. But so he was facing not only a guy that just knocked out Manny Pacquiao and dethroned one of the best fighters ever and number one at that time, but he was facing a guy that could possibly be using, like I said, that's a different topic. I think you're innocent until you're proven guilty. Who knows, right? Anyway, he was facing a beast, Juan Manuel Marquez, and Timothy Bradley clearly outboxed him and almost dropped him in the 12th round too. So Juan Manuel Marquez, stylistically, it was a bad matchup for him. Juan Manuel Marquez just couldn't set his feet, couldn't get comfortable, and couldn't answer Timothy Bradley's boxing skills, and Timothy Bradley just boxed perfectly, and the game plan was perfect to beat Juan Manuel Marquez, and he just beat the guy who beat Manny Pacquiao. So that is another impressive victory, and the way he did it, he outboxed Marquez. And then he faces Manny Pacquiao in the rematch, his next fight. He loses unanimous decision, but he stuns Manny Pacquiao in the 4th round. I'm pretty sure, I think it was the 4th round. He stuns Manny Pacquiao with a very good right hand. The first couple rounds to up to the middle of the fight, Timothy Bradley's putting in a pretty good performance, way better than the first fight. But then he started slipping as the fight went on, and as the 6th round passed and the second half of the fight came, he started losing a lot more. But still, Timothy Bradley did better in the second fight than he did in the first fight. So he put in a good performance, even though he clearly got beaten by Manny Pacquiao. He still, like I said, he stunned Manny Pacquiao. He had a couple good rounds. He did better than the first fight, in my opinion. So Timothy Bradley definitely put in a good performance, still lost. The game plan maybe wasn't right. He was trying to knock out Pacquiao, but then again, I think the game plan was kind of right, because if you don't knock out Pacquiao, you're not going to beat him. in my opinion. Right now, if you don't knock out Pacquiao, you're not going to beat him. So he lost to him. He lost to Manny Pacquiao, but still, he lost his WBO title. That he actually got gifted from the first fight. He lost the title. But still, Manny Pacquiao is one of the best fighters in the world. In my opinion, he is the best right now. So he lost to one of the best. Then he just faced Diego Gabriel Chavez. If this let me tell you, if this video cuts out because I don't have enough space on the cameras, I'll make it to 2 parts, but hopefully I get to fit it all in. I'll try to hurry up. Diego Chavez, he faced just last month in December. It was a split decision draw, very controversial. I clearly had Bradley winning it. I gotta say, Bradley was winning a lot of the early rounds, but then in the middle rounds, but then when the fight started progressing later and later, Diego Chavez actually started making it a fight and he actually got into the fight more. So I definitely had Diego Chavez winning probably 4 rounds, and he won a decent amount of rounds because as the fight progressed, Diego Chavez started doing better. Timothy Bradley started gassing out a bit, it seemed, and started forgetting more about the game plan. And no, he started fighting the way Diego wanted to fight. He started giving in to that kind of fight. So, but he still won the fight, and he showed explosiveness, and he showed that he improved his power in that fight. In my opinion, it looked like Timothy Bradley had a more solid punch in that fight and more vicious combos, but he gassed out quicker. So he still clearly won that fight, in my opinion. So that didn't affect his position as number 3. Now number 2, Manny Pacquiao is number 2, and in my opinion, I have to tell the facts as it is. I want to put him number 1, but I can't because he needs to either beat Floyd Mayweather, or Floyd Mayweather needs to lose horribly or lose to someone. Even just a loss to someone would make Manny Pacquiao move to number 1. But since Floyd Mayweather has never lost yet, and Manny Pacquiao is looking impressive lately, still though, it's either Floyd Mayweather has to lose or Manny Pacquiao has to beat Floyd Mayweather, or has to beat like Gennady Golovkin or something to put him at number, to try to push Mayweather off that spot. But for now, we'll have to put Floyd Mayweather number 1. And but let's talk about why Manny Pacquiao is number 2. Manny Pacquiao is number 2 because he was number 1 before the Marquez knockout in 2012. He bounced back a year later to face Brandon Rios, a guy who's only lost once to Mike Alvarado, who Mike Alvarado lost to Brandon Rios too. So the guy that Brandon Rios lost to, he beat too. So Brandon Rios is a good, solid, tough guy, not an A-level fighter, not an elite fighter, but a very tough opponent and a very good opponent for anyone to face. So he beat him pretty much it was a 12-round beatdown for unanimous decision victory for Pacquiao. A good victory for his coming back fight after a knockout, a tune-up fight. But a lot of people were obviously still doubting him. But the fight was a very impressive victory. But obviously, Brandon Rios isn't an elite caliber fighter, so we wanted more from Pacquiao, right? So then he did. He faced Timothy Bradley, an elite caliber fighter, next in the rematch, who he beat the first time but got robbed. Timothy Bradley was coming off victories over Ruslan Provodnikov and Juan Manuel Marquez, the man who just knocked him out. He was coming off. He beat the man that beat Pacquiao. So Timothy Bradley beat Juan Manuel Marquez convincingly in decision, and then Manny Pacquiao goes on to have a rematch with him in the second fight. Timothy Bradley has his title, and Manny Pacquiao shows that he's better than Timothy Bradley again, beats him by unanimous decision, like it should have been in the first case, the first fight. But you could say the fight was actually closer than the first fight. Timothy Bradley did better, but the fight was actually a better fight in my opinion than the first fight too. More exciting. Both guys did more action, and both guys did better. But Manny Pacquiao showed that he's still one of the best in the world, and showed that he can beat the elite caliber fighters still, and he still can be number one. And he showed that he still has the good combos, the good speed, and the good footwork. And he beats Timothy Bradley, who in my opinion was number 2 pound for pound at that time. So he beat Timothy Bradley. And then his second fight in 2014, he regained his WBO title in that fight too against Timothy Bradley. Then he faces Chris Algieri, which just happened in November in Macau, China. Chris Algieri's coming off a very big win against Ruslan Provodnikov, a beast. A very close fight. Then again, like the Timothy Bradley-Ruslan fight, it could have went either way with this fight. Some people thought Ruslan won. Some people thought Algieri won. Algieri did win the the split decision victory against Ruslan, beating the beast. Algieri showed that he has good boxing skills. He has the size and the reach to give Manny problems and to give anyone problems, especially at 140, since he's pretty big for 140. We were thinking maybe this is stylistically bad for Manny Pacquiao. A lot of people were saying, not me, but a lot of people were saying that. His reach, his height, his boxing skills. He's a mover. He's a very skillful boxer. He knows the sweet science very well. This is going to be a problem for Manny. A lot of people were saying this. And Chris Algieri was coming off, like I said, he was coming off a win over Ruslan, and he was undefeated. And he was the WBO light welterweight world champion, the belt that he won from Ruslan that night. He did get dropped in the Ruslan fight, but he came back and he boxed very well. And he won, in my opinion. I thought he won. I thought it was a close fight, but I thought he won. If Ruslan did not knock down Algieri at all in the first round, or the second round, I forget. I think it was the first or second. Then Ruslan wouldn't have got a 10-7 round, and it would have been even more clearly Algieri's win. But anyway, Manny Pacquiao destroys Chris Algieri. Pretty much comes as close as you can to knocking out someone without knocking them out. He dropped Chris Algieri 6 times. 2 of them were kind of slips, but punches did make contact. But the other couple were very clear knockdowns, and one of them was a very vicious knockdown that you could actually said that he got counted out, because it looked like he got up right, like he started getting up right on 9, and he barely made the 10 count. Some people say, if you watch it closely, you can even argue he didn't make the 10 count, and if it was a different ref, maybe he would have been waved off, because he was really hurt from that shot. In the, I forget, it was the 8th round maybe, or the 9th, I forget. Before he was still in the cage though, that's the thing. But anyway, he just destroyed Chris Algieri, an undefeated champion, who a lot of people were saying was going to beat Manny Pacquiao, and stylistically was all wrong for Manny Pacquiao. He beat him, and he beat him very impressively. But to signature Manny Pacquiao's number 2 spot was the Timothy Bradley win, and the very impressive, the very one-sided destruction wins over Brandon Rios and Chris Algieri. But the main fight that made Manny Pacquiao rappel back to number 2 and get repel him back to almost number 1 again was the Timothy Bradley fight. But let's go to number 1. Like I said, I gotta stay true to the. I would like to put Manny Pacquiao number 1. I do think he is better than Floyd Mayweather. I do think he will beat Floyd Mayweather 100%. But Floyd Mayweather is number 1 on the list. He's never lost. You can't really, you could argue he lost to Maidana in the first fight. You could argue, because that was a close fight, Marcus Maidana controlled the first half of that fight. You could argue he lost to Castillo, but that was a long time ago. But anyway, he came back in the rematch against Marcus Maidana in the rematch, and he won it clearly, in my opinion. He ran more in that fight. He used more tactics, defensive tactics, holding and running. So he didn't. He clearly, it was a more boring fight, but he won that fight. And like I said, I thought the first fight with Maidana, I thought it could have went either way. I thought Maidana could have won that fight. I thought Floyd could have won that fight by a point or two. I thought it could have been a draw. So since Floyd Mayweather did get the official win and it was a close fight, and I can understand why you would think Floyd Mayweather won that fight. So if it was a robbery, clearly a robbery, like a very, like clearly Marcus Maidana won, like then I could say, okay, Floyd Mayweather isn't number one anymore. But it was a close fight, and when I first saw the fight, I thought Marcus Maidana clearly won. But I watched it again; it was a close fight, so you could argue either way who won that fight. But Floyd Mayweather hasn't been looking the same lately, and he hasn't had an impressive performance since the Canelo Alvarez fight. That was his one of the most impressive performances of his career. But since 2013, he just hasn't looked good in 2014. But still, he's undefeated. He still has all his titles. And Marcus Maidana is a B-level fighter. He's a very good fighter. Maybe even, like, I would say a B-plus fighter. What I'm trying to say is Marcus Maidana is not an elite fighter. He is a good, tough opponent, just like the equivalent to like a Brandon Rios victory for Pacquiao, that kind of thing. But like I said, he still hasn't lost. He hasn't lost recently, even though he hasn't been looking, in my opinion, that good lately. He still hasn't lost, and you can't take him off number one until he loses clearly. It doesn't have to be officially like losing. Like if he gets awarded official victory, but he clearly lost that, then I'm going to move him off that. But like I said, he clearly won the rematch with Marcus Maidana. You could argue if Marcus Maidana won the first fight. I thought Marcus Maidana, I wouldn't argue with you if you told me Marcus Maidana won the first fight. But it was a close fight. You could have given it to Floyd too. So pretty much what makes Floyd Mayweather number one still is an impressive victory over Canelo Alvarez. Even though Canelo, I don't think, is an elite fighter yet either. Still, though, Canelo was pretty big, and the way Floyd Mayweather performed in that fight was very good. He stood pretty much toe-to-toe with Canelo at points in the fight and let his hands go. And it was one of the more exciting Floyd Mayweather fights. If you're going to actually try to pick an exciting fight of Floyd Mayweather, you would watch that one, in my opinion, because a lot of his fights are boring, but that one was actually kind of entertaining, and he clearly outclassed the bigger, stronger man in Canelo. And Canelo was undefeated at that point. So, and Canelo was coming off the victories of Austin Trout and stuff. So, but anyway, his victory, he beat Marcus Maidana, a very good, tough opponent, and Marcus Maidana has a very good resume. Like I said, I don't think Marcus Maidana is an elite fighter, but Marcus Maidana has been, he's been getting a lot better with Robert Garcia, and the victories over Adrian Broner. And I don't think Adrian Broner is that good, in my opinion. I think he's a B-level fighter at best. But you could see, like I said, the improvements Marcus Maidana has made with Robert Garcia. If you watch earlier in his career and up to point now, Marcus Maidana's got a lot better. So it's a credible opponent for Floyd Mayweather, not an elite fighter. But why? This is the number one reason why I put Floyd number one still, is because he's still undefeated. He hasn't lost. No one has clearly beat him, like clearly, where you can say he clearly lost that fight. Like I said, you could argue Marcus Maidana beat him, but it wasn't a one-sided fight. It could have went either way. Like I said, it wasn't a totally clear someone beat him up bad, but he did get beat up bad for the first half of that fight for sure. But he still got the victory. But my second reason for putting him number one is he did look impressive with the Alvarez fight, he did look impressive, but he hasn't been looking impressive lately. But so he's still number one because he hasn't lost yet. And so that's my list. Like I said, I do think Manny Pacquiao is better than him, and I think when the fight happens, Manny Pacquiao is going to win 100%. I am confident Manny Pacquiao will beat him, and then I will put Manny Pacquiao number one. So that is my list. Number 5, Sergey Kovalev. Number 4, Juan Manuel Marquez. Number 3, Timothy Bradley. Number 2, Manny Pacquiao. Number 1, Floyd Mayweather Jr. And I did want to put Gennady Golovkin on the list. It was either, but Sergey Kovalev is definitely more credible to put on the list since his impressive victory over Bernard Hopkins. But Gennady Golovkin, if I had to make a top 6 and keep on going on to 10, Gennady Golovkin would be number 6. Gennady Golovkin is a destroyer. He's beating good fighters. He hasn't beaten elite fighters yet, and that's why he isn't in the top 5 yet. But he's definitely worthy, and he's soon probably going to be in the top 5 once he beats like a Cotto or Canelo or something like that. Gennady Golovkin, he's just a destroyer. He's beaten good fighters. He hasn't, like a lot of people saying he's fighting bums, but he's not fighting bums. Gennady Golovkin is facing good fighters, and he's knocking them out. He's destroying them. Antonio Rubio, he just knocked out. Daniel Geale, Asumanu Adama, Curtis Stevens, Matthew Macklin, Gabriel Rosado, Nuburu Hairu Ashida. These are good fighters, and he's being like, especially Daniel Geale and Marco Antonio Rubio, Curtis Stevens, Matthew Macklin. Those are good opponents, and he's destroying them. So you gotta respect Gennady Golovkin, what he's doing, and when the time comes for him to face an elite caliber opponent, when one presents itself, you'll see what he does. So he's definitely almost on the top 5 pound for pound. So like I said, I put him number 6. But anyway, that's my list. Let me know you guys' list. Do you agree with me? And I probably left out some things, but I think I pretty much gave my opinion why my list is like this and why each guy is in the position they're in. So yeah, subscribe to my videos, Power Up Boxing, and I'll see you guys later.